We're in a cave. We are in a cave at a geology conference. I'm here at the Southeastern GSA, or Geological Society of America, sectional conference. Sectional GSA meetings, just like the national ones, have research posters and talks. But before we visit those and see what kind of research is going on here in the Southeastern section, let's first check out the exhibit hall. The exhibit hall is where you can find universities and organizations that may have products or services that could help you in your career. GSA always has a booth with some really fun goodies, and we'll come back to visit them later in the video. The Mineralogical Society of America and Minerals in Context have some really cool minerals and rock samples here, and we'll come back to them as well. And there's even some amazing thin section displays over here showcasing the latest petrographic microscopes. So let's go talk to these exhibitors. Hi, can you tell me about this?
Hi, I'm Bob Martin with Martin Microscope Company. We sell microscopes and related accessories. So what we've brought are several petrographic polarizing microscopes as well as a dissecting stereo microscope, all set up with cameras to output either to a screen or to a computer. We sell new and used equipment, so 3 of these are new and the one on the end is a used microscope. So what we've got showing are cross sections of rock samples, basically. They're mineral thin sections under polarized light microscopy.
Awesome.
So if you were just using a traditional microscope, that's what it would look like. But then with the polarized filters, you get all those colors that will tell a geologist more than it would tell me, but it will tell them what kind of minerals are present in these samples and that kind of thing.
Okay, awesome. Wait, let's get a closer look. I used to do this all the time in lab class, and now there's all these fancy ways to look at it, and you don't even need to do that. Okay, now let's go visit the exhibitors with the cool rock samples and see what they're all about.
Hello, my name is Tom Hale. I'm the Executive Director of Minerals in Context. We're partnering with the Mineralogical Society of America in the MGPV division of GSA to come here and create some really interesting exhibits. Our exhibits are focused on minerals in the context of society and their importance to everyday life. So we have exhibits based off of aluminum and its various uses and materials that you see. We also have a lot of exhibits around current issues in society. So the deep sea nodules exhibit, a lot of people are interested in wanting to learn about them, but have never been able to handle them. And we also give out periodic tables that we put out every year with Elements magazine. We have our periodic table here where you can actually see the elements. And we just have a lot of exhibits on mineraloids. Every year we come out to GSA conferences and show folks all these exhibits and learn a little bit more about how minerals actually play a role in their everyday life. And so we're excited to have students be able to hold some really unique specimens that they may not be able to see in everyday life.
All right, now for what you've been waiting for. We're moving to the poster hall. Thankfully, these sectional meetings are small enough that the poster hall is in the same room as the exhibit hall, at least here at the Southeastern meeting. So pretty easy to find. And the scale of these sectional meetings is perfect for first-time student poster presenters to get some practice before going to a national meeting. They're also cheaper in terms of registration and traveling to the meeting, especially when they're a lot closer to you. The sectional meetings tend to be, in the region of the section. We're here in Harrisonburg, Virginia for the Southeastern section meeting, but there are all these other sections all over the US that are easier for, people to get to if they're in that area compared to having to go maybe like across the country or the national meeting sometimes. So it's a lot easier to get to. It's more affordable for a lot of universities to bring a lot more students to. We at University of South Carolina were able to bring so many undergrads to this one to get some research presentation experience, which is amazing. And yeah, so let's go see what our presenters here at the Southeastern meeting had to say. Why is mapping important?
Mapping is important so that we can help to understand some of the structures that dictate potential geological hazards in our state. So here we have a map of the Clarks Hill and Collier's Quadrangle in South Carolina, and we've mapped out several faults that are analogous to other faults for the recent earthquake string that's occurred in Elgin, South Carolina. And that area is covered by coastal plains, so understanding these structures where we have exposure helps us to understand earthquakes in the state as a whole.
Awesome. Why is studying microfossils important?
So studying microfossils is so important because the geochemical ratios within their calcium carbonate shells can tell a lot to scientists about past climate states, such as the PETM, which is actually very similar carbon input as modern climate change. So it's a really helpful analog to anthropogenic climate change.
And what are the most significant findings from your work?
So the most significant findings from this work are distinct sedimentological, faunal, and geochemical changes across the CIE onset. Prior to the CIE onset, we see a certain type of fauna dominating, mostly large benthic forams, sclerotinian coral, bivalve mollusks, but afterward we see an abundance in serpulid worm incrustations, dinoflagellate algae blooms, and the excursion taxa Acarinina africana.
And so why does that matter for us?
So that matters because seeing the presence or absence of certain foraminifera or other microfossil species in a core can tell about the paleo-environmental changes, which can then be related to modern climate change, because if we see similar trends in the past, we can sort of interpolate and make predictions about the future.
Why is your research important?
This is important because it allows us to understand how our coastlines are attenuating sea level rise. And as the marshes at the very edge of our coastlines are experiencing more and more salt, they're actually moving backward, which allows them to survive. And marshes provide a lot of ecosystem services that are essential to the world as we know it right now. And so having them move backward and migrate into the forests behind them may seem like something that's detrimental to the forests, and in a lot of ways it is, but it's what allows all these ecosystems to survive at all, and that migration keeps them alive.
So why is geophysics important?
I think geophysics is important because we can't always see everything that's going on at the surface. A lot of it is hidden by plants or really anything, other rocks sometimes. So with geophysics, we can look deeper, can look under the rocks and under the plants and figure out what's going on without a geologic outcrop or a mountain to go look at.
Who knew that we could use rubber and plastic to simulate what's going on Earth's surface? It's really hard to understand magma chambers, so what we tried to do was use analogs. So we used water, SBR, which is a rubber, and polycarbonate, plastic, to simulate these magma chambers, and the result was something beautiful. We actually made these layered mafic intrusions and ophiolite complexes, and we're able to physically see what could be going on Earth's surface, not even considering thermal processes.
Why is understanding lead occurrence important?
Yeah, so understanding lead occurrence in yard materials is important for remediation techniques for the city, because as of right now, the cleanup is estimated to be over $100 million, and they're estimating a removal of 433,000 cubic yards. So if we can concentrate the lead and see what it's doing in the soils, there could be more efficient cleanup techniques. And also just for community health, because it's affecting the citizens of this community with lead-related illnesses.
Why is metamorphic petrology important?
So metamorphic petrology is really important to our economy and for critical minerals and to learning about how North America formed as a continent. My research looks at kyanite quartzites, which are a strange metamorphic rock found in central Virginia.
Awesome! And what were the most significant findings you got with your research?
Yeah. So my main findings were that these rocks were metamorphosed, so heated and put and buried very deeply in the earth, about 600 degrees Celsius and 6.5 kilobars of pressure, which is about 18 kilometers down. There are also differences in protolith. So the blue kyanite quartzites had a more basaltic protolith, so that would have started life more as like the rocks in Hawaii, whereas the white kyanite quartzites have a more andesitic protolith. So it's like more explosive, like Mount St. Helens.
Wow, that is so cool. Thank you.
I am also curious what these students think about common misconceptions in their fields of research.
What's the biggest misconception in your field?
Yeah, I think that the biggest misconception in the field of geology is that social science doesn't have a place in it. I think it completely does have a place in it. I think it's super important for geologists to reflect on society and how we engage in it.
I think the biggest misconception in the field of geology is that it's rocks for jocks.
So the biggest misconception in paleoecology and paleontology is that we only study macrofossils. Like when you think of a fossil, it's like a giant dinosaur bone, but that's honestly not the whole story. We also study microfossils, including tiny planktic and benthic foraminifera, which are a couple hundred microns in size. They're very important too, and they can tell a lot about past climate states.
The biggest misconception in my field is that geology is just the study of rocks, when it is actually the study of Earth and all Earth processes.
The biggest misconception in my field is that people think there's such a thing as a science person. We're all science people. We all go out and exist in the natural world and have something to say about it and something to learn from it. There is no such thing as a person who does science and a person who isn't good enough for it. We're all here to be scientists.
One more time for the people in the back.
There is no such thing as a person who does science and a person who isn't good enough for it. We're all here to be scientists.
Okay, we're about to go to a reception after the first day of the conference in some caverns. And this is a very appropriate shirt. Hold up your tag so you can see the shirt.
I shouldn't even have that.
That is awesome. So we're about to go into some caverns. Literally, what kind of conference other than a geoscience conference would have receptions in a cave? I mean, this is why I'm a geologist. I don't know how much I'll be able to talk in the caves, so I'm doing this little intro here, and then I'm going to try and get some B-roll in there. But yeah, I'm excited. Okay, so we've got the youngest cave explorer coming in here. First cave for baby Jonathan, and my postdoc supervisor. Not her first cave, but but she is bringing her wonderful, cute baby into the cave. So excited. We're in a cave. We are in a cave at a geology conference. Okay, we're here in the cave. Look at this. Oh my gosh. It's pitch black where the cave formations aren't, because they have to light the cave formations. Obviously not the path. There's wildlife that it will affect, so they try and minimize that with just lighting the cave formations. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, this one over here, guys, I have to show you. Wait. What? Oh my god. This is amazing. Normally at conferences you're just stuck inside, but like, yeah, I know. There's like a lake. Wow. Wait, where's? Oh, there it is.
What did you just do?
Oh, wait. I'm trying to get it like backwards, Phil. All right, we just walked into this room that is just like, what? How am I at a conference right now? It's so cool. Oh my gosh, you guys. Look at this. Oh my gosh. This is incredible.
Don't let me get in the way.
No, you're good. Oh my goodness.
I personally haven't seen so many people, beautiful people in this room of the cave. So it's beautiful seeing some of your faces, but seeing all the seats, almost all the seats filled. So we are a little under 100 people right now. And we made this reception without thinking about 100 people. We thought we wouldn't make it because we want to go to a cave in a Thursday afternoon. Yes, 100 people want to go in a cave in a Thursday afternoon. Right? Can you see where there are the two stairs merging? This is the place where we got the deposit to be around 700,000 years. Right? As we're turning here to Dante's Inferno, this is where we are, right? Over here in the Cathedral Hall. We're sitting right over there. And then we start getting to the end of the cave. It is a passage that is changing elevation around 10 meters, more or less, like 30-something feet.
see that green up there? The green on that cave formation? You might think, algae? But like, we're in a cave where there's no natural light. So like, how is there algae? It's actually because algae has gotten in from human contamination and it's started growing because of the synthetic lights. Isn't that insane? I mean, what? Like, life just finds a way. That's so crazy. More algae.
So this room, we just called the temperature room. We didn't have a better name for it.
Yeah. Okay, so our tour guide just showed us this little crevice right here. And apparently, if you go way down there and you go past this, what did she say? How small was it? Like
an 8-inch squeeze.
8-inch squeeze. There's like miles more of cave that about less than 100 people have actually explored. That is insane. Less people that have explored the moon have been down there and explored those miles of cave. That is so crazy, even though we've known about these caverns since the 1800s. Isn't that insane? Oh my God. Benny, isn't that insane?
That's so insane.
We're here at the second day of Southeastern GSA sectional meeting. As you can see, posters are in full swing, and I have just gotten to talk to some amazing students about their work. So I will show you guys some clips from that right now.
Yeah.
So why is studying ancient floods important?
Ancient floods are important to study because it will give us a footprint of what floods in the past look like, and the key to our present is the past. So to understand what's going on now in the modern times, we need to be able to understand the ancient flooding events.
And also, studying these ancient floods can further help people of these areas further prepare for these types of floods.
This kind of work can also help us understand the differences between historic flooding events and modern day ones, and perhaps how this interval has changed over the years, or if it remains the same, or whatever we can find from that.
This kind of data could save lives eventually once we get a record on it, because if people aren't prepared, then they're not going to know what to do. But if we can inform them, then it could be a really big help.
So why are we looking at the chemistry of these tiny microorganisms?
We're looking at the chemistry of these because the trace elements that are in the water can get incorporated into their shells, specifically based on the environment they're growing in. And then these shells can get fossilized into the sediment, and we can connect the chemistry of their shells to the environmental conditions they grew in the past, which can help educate our future environmental change of the Chesapeake Bay.
Dinosaur tracks and fossils are something that's very interesting for most people, especially children. It's something that is a gateway into science, so it really piques their interest. So we really focused on trying to make the activity something fun and interacting. And for me, I'm an exercise physiology major, so this was also something really intriguing to me. And just learning more about locomotion, whether it be in dinosaurs, we can kind of apply the same principles to humans and see what else we can do.
So what is beach nourishment and why is this happening?
So beach nourishment is the addition of external sediment onto a narrow and eroding beach, and it's super important for coastal communities because a lot of narrow islands are very vulnerable to sea level rise and increased frequency of storms. So nourishing beaches helps to protect the infrastructure and communities that lie on those beaches.
Awesome. And you have this wonderful example here showing this is not nourished and this is
narrow beach, and then we see the addition of all of this sand onto the beach here to help increase the width, protect all of these houses behind it, and hopefully just make this beach more recreationally better and better for the environment. So,
what are the biggest impacts of macroplastics in the environment?
So macroplastics are really bad for the environment. They can potentially break down into smaller plastics, called microplastics, from exposure to UV rays or environmental conditions. They can build up in the food chain of organisms when they consume microplastics, and then other organisms consume the microplastics after them, which leads to a buildup. This can also affect humans. When we consume these animals, we consume microplastics. Also, macroplastics can affect organisms by entanglement, which is really bad.
Zircons allow us to date certain rocks and then compare those dates to provenance studies and be able to see kind of where the sediment is coming from. And then we can kind of connect that to how we think it was transported, which can tell us a lot about how the climate was at the time.
We found that the aeolian samples had a much more diverse distribution of zircons compared to the fluvial samples, which had a much more concentrated concentration. And so that kind of correlates to their different depositional environments and what was going on at the time of deposition.
So why is geoscience education research important?
Geoscience education research is really important to help students decide what kind of program or degree that they want to get. There's significant differences between the BS and the BA in terms of what they're being prepared for and what sort of job opportunities there are for students. And so it's really important to delineate the differences when there is that option so students are well informed of their choices.
This is really pretty. Why is this important?
So these are soil iron manganese nodules, and they're a product of fluctuating water in soils. So as you get more anoxic, iron and manganese are able to go out of solution, and then when your soil dries out and oxygen re-enters the system, elements concentrate into these nodules. But not only iron and manganese, we're also seeing the introduction of critical minerals into these nodules, and this is important for understanding how these elements are moving throughout our environment and could be really important for things like remediation.
Wait, I think we need one more round of misconceptions.
So what's the biggest misconception in your field?
I feel like the biggest misconception with geology is that rocks and minerals are the same thing.
Probably the biggest misconception that I get is that geology is only looking at rocks. It is way, way more than that.
In my field, I think a big misconception is that we just look at the layers of the sediment as tree rings. Everybody knows what tree rings are. We know that it records the years, but in sediment, we're not just looking at the layers of the years, we're looking at the chemical composition. We're looking at the isotopes in there, we're looking at the carbon, and we're looking at the lead and the cesium. We're looking at the molecular structure of all of these things to see how it's different, because all of it is different, and it all gives us information on the past. So I think that's a big misconception.
I think that the biggest misconception that we get is that we study the past and people wonder why the past is present, or why it is important to the present day, and it directly affects and can predict what we see in the future, and it affects the lives of everyone today, so we need to study it.
I'd say that people think that geoscience is mainly for extraction of natural resources. I know the reason I wanted to go into it is because I watched a talk on some geoscientists in Beaufort who were using it to protect groundwater resources. And so I guess I don't like how people think it's only oil and gas, when in reality it's more about learning about the earth and protecting what we have right now.
Pisses me off. So I think the biggest misconception in my field is that geology just never changes, because it's always changing.
I just saw a poster about zircons and dating them. And another misconception I just thought of is that carbon dating is the only kind of dating we do in geology, the only way that we know the age of rocks. But that's so not the case. We use so many other isotope systems. And actually carbon dating is it does the least amount of time and only goes back 50,000 years. So we actually use a lot of other isotopes. And I'll put a list on the screen of a lot of the other ones we use to actually date things up to 4.6 billion years ago. And finally, let's go see what all is at the GSA booth and how students can get some perks.
Hi, can you tell me about the GSA, how students can get involved in GSA?
Of course. So for students, our membership rate is really perfect. So it's only $25 a year, and you get tons of benefit being a GSA student member. You get to be a part of our 22 divisions, and there's no restriction for students to be part of any divisions. You can be part of as many divisions as you want. You get free subscription of our journals like GSA Today, Online Geology, and also we give use opportunities for networking. We have a student community, student forum. So yeah, it would be great. And also, you get the discount registration rate for the meetings if you are a student member, to present your posters or give a talk.
Awesome. Yeah. And so what do students get if they sign up for a membership here at the meeting?
For now, if you sign up in any of our section meetings or at the Connects, I have this really cool retro bag with very awesome canvas design in it.
So cool.
And in the back, we have Geological Society of America
I've been
logo.
seeing so many students walk around with
Yeah,
that.
this is
It's
like-
such a cool bag.
It is, right?
Yes. I never got one. I have the hat that has that geologist logo on it, and I know one of my friends has the strat
Okay.
column on the back. So cool.
Yes.
Awesome. And then I love these time scale stickers. These are free, right?
It
Oh my
is.
gosh. Yeah. So if you're a student and you come to the GSA booth at any GSA conference, you can get free stuff and awesome free gifts for your membership. Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
And if you come to the GSA booth, they can give you these amazing flyers where you can find all these helpful links for jobs. There's the National Park Service, GeoCorps. There's, oh my God, graduate student research grants. Like, this is so helpful. People don't tell you these things. So come here and find these amazing links.
Okay, we're here getting ready for our field trip. I've got my geologist hat on. There are like 4 field trips, I think, as options for this sectional meeting. So we're about to go. I do have a separate video that is going to come out for the field trips. And I am covering the Catskill Clastic Wedge in West Virginia field trip, where we're going to go through Devonian rocks that show transitions in plant life, very first trees on Earth. Oh my God, I almost lost my voice. It's early in the morning here. And the very first animals on land during this time in these rocks. And I'm going to show these rocks. I talked to the trip leaders earlier this week to cover this field trip in an interview format, which I'll show with the rocks, and kind of do like a field/interview video on that. So be sure to check out the field trip video, and I will link that on the screen if it's out by now, or in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Bye.
Who knew we could simulate? Hold on. Sorry, that was way too like National Geographic. It's okay. Okay.
The big. I forgot how to wear it.